Hello everyone, I am Mrs. Esther Messi. Welcome back to another session of Lesson 1, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Today we will study about the making of nationalism in Europe. The making of nationalism in Europe. The map of mid 18th century Europe shows that there were no nation state like today. The present Germany, Italy, and Switzerland were divided into kingdoms, duchies, and cantons, whose ruler had the autonomous territories. They spoke different languages and belonged to different ethnic groups. The Habsburg Empire, ruling over Austria Hungary, was the patchwork of many different regions and people. The only tie binding these diverse groups together was a common dedication to the emperor. The aristocracy and the new middle class. At the top was aristocracy. Aristocracy was a small but socially and politically dominant class and group on the continent. The members of this class were united by a common way of life that cut across regional divisions. They owned estates in the countryside beside town houses. They spoke French for purposes of diplomacy and in high society. Their families were often connected by ties of marriage. On the other hand, the position was as under. The majority of the population was made up of the peasantry. To the west, the bulk of the land was farmed by tenants and small owners. In the Eastern and Central Europe, the pattern of land holdings was characterized by vast estates which were cultivated by serfs. Now the industrial productions. In Western and Central Europe, industrial production brought emergence of commercial classes. In its wake, new social groups came into being. A working class population and middle class made up of industrialists, businessmen, and professionals. In the Central and Eastern Europe, these groups were smaller in number till late 19th century. It was among the educated, liberal middle classes that idea of national unity following the abolition of aristocracy privileges gained popularity. Now we will look at what did liberalism stand for. Ideas of national unity in the 19th century Europe were closely related to the ideology of liberalism. The new middle classes interpreted liberalism as freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. Throughout the 19th and early 20th century, there were the movement demanding equal political right, that is, universal suffrage or the right to vote. In France, the right to vote and to get elected was granted only to the people who own property. Men and women without properties were excluded from this right. In the economic sphere, liberalism stood for the following: freedom of markets and the abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Hence, in 1834, all the initiative of Persia as custom union or Zollverein was formed. It was joined by most of the German states. The union abolished tariff barriers and reduced the number of currency from over 30 to 2. I hope you all have understood this much. We'll continue this lesson in my next video. Thanks for watching.